Welcome to Carlton Town TV. I'm Dean Wykes, and here today I'm with Dave Hodgson, the Strategic Development Officer. So hi Dave, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
How did you come to get to know the chairman and get involved with the club?
Actually, it was through my son. My son used to work for Sainsbury's and he was looking to put on a charity football match, and he spoke to a number of different football clubs in the area, and Mick said he could use the pitch to hold his charity match. So I came down to watch the match and support my son, and in the process obviously introduced myself to Mick and got to know Mick, and it all went from there really. I sort of met him through my son, and we've subsequently become quite good pals really, and I've got a lot of common interests.
Oh, very nice. Mick asked you to come onto the committee, and understand you contribute financially to the club and support events. What's your role within the club, and what have you achieved, and what do you want to go on to achieve?
Well, I suppose I retired 18 months ago, and I've spent most of my career running big logistics businesses. So I felt that I'd got some a business perspective on running the club rather than a footballing perspective, which I was quite happy to sort of offer up to support the chairman and the rest of the committee. Albeit I've sort of been involved with other football clubs in the past, but more through sponsorship. I was one of the major sponsors at Notts County for 6 or 7 years, and so again got quite close to the footballing side of things in those days. And I think because of that, Mick asked me if I'd get involved in the football club, and I saw probably a gap in the focus areas, which was the sort of longer term future for the football club. So because it's a challenge running a football club at our level, and it's very much hand to mouth, most of the focus is on just getting through the next few weeks of paying the wages and keeping the club going and organising fundraisers and selling raffle tickets, which I made very clear to Mick in the early days wasn't my bag.
Yeah.
Whereas I've previously, obviously because of the sort of level of roles I've had, been far more sort of long-term and strategic in my thinking. And so I said to Mick I thought there was a need for us to start thinking about the future. We were looking towards a break in the lease when Severn Trent could have exercised that break and we would no longer have been here. So I was involved initially in sort of looking at things like the lease and some of the health and safety around the club, just to make sure that we were on a stable platform. But then I suppose the role I've taken on is more looking forward about the future of the football club. So how do we get more strategic funding in? So not just selling raffle tickets, which Brian Dennett does a great job of with other people on the committee, but more things like how could we bring money into, maybe get a 3G pitch, which would clearly give us a more sustainable future for the football club.
Yeah, so you're obviously very involved with the financial side of the club, and it's well documented that Mick is frustrated with the funding system, which gives predominantly money to clubs who can match what they want to put in, or alternatively it's the rich that can just put money into the clubs themselves. Is this something that you think affects Carlton, or does it frustrate you?
Oh, it frustrates me, and it frustrates, I think, the committee at Carlton, and I think it frustrates most football clubs at grassroots level, sort of semi-pro football clubs really. It's a challenge because for you to get any sizable funding through Sport England, which is linked to the National Lottery, or through other funding bodies like the Football League, they are really looking at you having either owning the freehold to your ground, which we don't, or having something in the region of 20 to 25 years lease, whereas we've only got an 8-year lease left at the moment. So I'm in discussions with Severn Trent, who own our lease, about what the opportunities are for us to extend that and what the future looks like. And also, if you are able to get funding, even if we could secure a longer term lease, they're always looking for you to put a proportion in. So for example, if we wanted to put a new 3G pitch in here, it would cost us, broad order of numbers, 800 grand. So we'd probably have to find somewhere in the region of 300-400 grand, depending on where we were getting the funding from. With the lottery it's 50-50, if you do it through the Football League it's 70-30. So again, trying to raise that sort of money against a day job of really just trying to sell raffle tickets and organise fundraisers to bring money into the football club, it is a real challenge. Whereas obviously if you've got an owner who has got a lot of cash, it's a lot easier for them to just write the cheque out for their 50%. I suppose it's just life. It's probably no different to experience in my business life. It's just obviously very, very frustrating because it means, I suppose, arguably, to coin a phrase, the rich get richer, and you know, people at our level who try to do everything by the book, and we try to run the book sensibly. You know, we're not over ambitious with what we spend on a player budget and the likes. It does make it a real challenge, and it is real hand to mouth all the time. And I'm in the discussions at the moment with the Football League. I've met, as I say, Severn Trent about the lease here. We've met the local councillors and the local MP to look at what sort of support they would give us if we could get funding, and we were looking for planning permission for things. And I've been in ongoing discussions with Persimmon, the builders across the road, who are building 880 houses over the next 10 years. So they've already given us a community grant of £1,000, which we've used to furnish this classroom. But I'm in ongoing discussions with them about what other sort of support they can give the football club, which is a bit more than the type of money we raise through the fundraisers. But clearly they are much bigger decisions when you're looking to extend your lease by another 12 years, you know, so exactly. A lot of money and a lot of responsibility, so they're decisions that need to be taken very carefully.
So you've obviously done, well, Carlton as a club have done very well throughout the years, in still a struggle financially, but what do you think the future brings for Carlton?
It's difficult. We are currently competing against other teams in our league that have got player budgets which are 3-4 times our budget, and whilst we constantly are looking for other people who might want to make a contribution to the running of the football club, those sort of people aren't readily available, and therefore certainly for the manager and the footballing staff it does make it quite a challenge. I think that survival in the current league this season would be a great result against the background of the season that we've had. I think it's difficult to say going forward. Certainly the reconfiguration of the football leagues this season hasn't helped, because the players are travelling much longer distances now to play games, because we're travelling all the way up to Morpeth and Redcar up in the northeast, so that's a much bigger challenge. I'd like to think next season you know, we could maybe, you know, be a bit more optimistic and maybe finish mid-table. I certainly wouldn't want to be unrealistic and say next season we're going to be pushing for promotion, because I think a lot of that will depend on what business we do in the close season. Yeah. And I think that's from a footballing perspective. I think from a business perspective, which is really the view I tend to take, I think that will be very, very dependent on what type of funding we can secure and what sort of support we can get from the likes of Severn Trent, because clearly if we could renegotiate a preferential lease for another 12 years, which would keep us here for 20, that would give us a platform for maybe getting some grants, which perhaps would give us a much more sustained future. I think the difficulty is we haven't got lots of chimney pots around here, which is going to bring fans in. Yeah. Whereas by, I think it's next month actually, the first houses start going up for sale over there on the Persimmon development. Obviously there's some ready-made football fans over there. So I think the real challenge for us as a committee then is how do we lock in those new homeowners into coming over to the football club. Yeah. And for example, I've already got an agreement with Persimmon that in all the welcome packs that go into every one of their new homes, there'll be a letter from the football club welcoming the new residents and offering them you know, some free tickets to come and watch the game, and hopefully if what they see on the pitch is encouraging, then perhaps they'll then start coming back and it'll help us build a supporter base.
So that's everything for now. Thanks for joining us, it's been most enjoyable, and I'll be sure to interview you again.
Yeah, good, thank you.